Vince, I wanted to ask you, I was talking to Greg Nicotero earlier this week, and we were talking about the box cutter episode where he shared information about how he was doing quick times of the cut, and you were saying, like, we need more gurgle, we need more splurting. It was interesting to learn that you get that detailed in the episodes. How closely do you look at every aspect of the episodes before they go out?
Very closely. That is a fundamental reason. That is the fundamental reason that you can either say that I'm very attentive to detail, or you can say that I'm a control freak. You can call it anything you want, but that's the reason we're breaking these final 16 episodes up into 8 episodes this summer, 8 episodes the following summer, because it is just very understanding of Sony and AMC to allow me this particular hybrid sort of schedule, because I want to spend as much time as possible in the writer's room, work with the writers to get the scripts the way they need to be. I want to spend as much time in the editing room to get the edits exactly, to the frame the way I want them. I want to spend time. I have to be at every mix. I can't. I don't think I've ever missed a mix. Maybe one time I did, and I felt terrible for it. I want to weigh in on every prop, every piece of wardrobe, every location, every bit of music we use. I want to be the color time for each of these episodes, where you sit with a colorist and you make sure that the color of each individual scene is just the way you want it. I'm not saying I'm particularly good at all these individual things, but I want to have my chance to weigh in. And so, yes, that was working with Greg Nicotero, by the way, was wonderful. And Howard Berger, his partner, at K&B Effects. Those guys are just the tops in what they do. They are so very talented. And when you say to a guy like Greg or Howard, I want a slightly more flow, or I want the liquid to be a little broader in girth, or I want it needs to be more like a quicken, whatever. It's crazy level of detail. Those guys are into that, and they make it happen. They make it. Of course, that was a combination of wonderful prosthetic makeup and special effects on the part of our regular special effects crew. It's an amazing collaborative effort on the part of a lot of very enthusiastic, very talented people.
Michael Slavis has been the DP since the beginning of the show, but he's also directed a number of episodes. Yes. So what's it like allowing the man who's actually been responsible for capturing that image to step and take the reins of the director?
It's very easy to allow Michael Slavis to take the reins and come in and direct. The only thing that becomes nervous-making at that point is that it means that if he is directing, he's not shooting the show. And so then you say, well, I'm greedy here. I'm happy to have Michael direct because he's a wonderful director. And indeed, he directed the first episode of this new season, did a marvelous job, as always. But then you say to yourself, but who's going to shoot it? So, but luckily, Michael, having done this job for so long, knows a great many very talented directors of photography. You want, as a showrunner, you want two sometimes opposing things. You want to hire the best people available, the best people in the world, the Ryan Johnsons in the world, David Slades, all the great directors that we work with. And you will notice that we work with a pretty consistent and small stable of directors, that we fine-tune over the seasons, the folks who really, and we've worked with a lot of wonderful directors who've only done a show once or twice, wonderful directors, but the folks who seem to get the show the most clearly are the folks we have back time and time again. It does not mean that they are better directors. It just means that they are perhaps a better fit for our particular show. But yes, it's a tricky thing. You want the best folks you can find. You want the most creative, the most interesting in their shot composition, the most fresh and original people, and yet you want them to abide by certain basic, I don't want to say rules, we try not to have rules on the show, but there are certain consistencies that you want a new director to abide by. You want the show to look at least more or less like a typical episode of Breaking Bad. There's a certain continuity of imagery and look that you want to maintain. So it does get tricky at times. But interestingly, those two names that you mentioned fit in very well with our show. And Ryan Johnson, I'm very happy to say, is directing has already directed his second episode for us, which will air as episode 4 this season. And just as wonderful a job the second time around as he did the first. Just an absolute great guy and a pleasure. And put his own unique stamp on the show, and yet nonetheless made it very much a Breaking Bad episode. That's a real skill to be able to do that.